and welcome to another Cliff's List webinar. And today I'm very pleased to have my good friend Johnny Soporno here, who is going to enlighten you with probably a view of the world you very unlikely have seen before. And I think this will be a very interesting and unique experience for those of you, particularly if you've not been familiar with him and what he does. Johnny, let's start by you just giving a little bit of an introduction about yourself, a little bit about your background, and this sort of thing.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for having me, Cliffy. It's always great. I remember back a decade ago, a little more than that now, when I de-lurked in the seduction community, speaking at Cliff's List 2006. And though I had actually been coaching people for some time, particularly in areas of relationship management and lifestyle development, that was the first time I'd ever done it for a large-scale, attentive audience of people who knew in advance that was what they were coming looking for. Prior to that, most of my clients were corporate clients who had not intended to hire me for that. They had, in fact, been hiring me to do technology consulting and management consulting. And an interesting fact, when a man travels a lot and he doesn't really know a lot of other men or people in a new area, a new region, especially if it's international, it's very hard to make new friends as a man when you're on the road, because it's not like you can talk about local politics or the local sports team or even necessarily the local sport. If you're in a distant enough place, I don't know anything about cricket, and I'm not going to be able to have a conversation about sports that I know nothing about with random strangers. However, it's easy to start conversations with women because they always presume the reason you're talking to them is because they're women, and that they're going to sniff you out as they do based on how comfortable you are with yourself. So I never had any trouble when I was traveling making new friends who were women and hooking up with them and having fun with them. And because my business trips were usually fairly elaborate events, I would have a couple of days before the meeting that I had been called in to be a participant, during which to get settled and become familiar with the people who were players within the company. And then evening would come and they'd say, you want to go grab a beer or something? I said, well, I've got a date with a local girl, but perhaps she'd come along with us. They go, sure. And they'd meet the beautiful women that I would hook up with, and they would go, but you're fat and balding and how could you be pulling these beautiful girls? I live here and I'm rich and well established and have a gorgeous home and a beautiful car and all the trappings of success. And I realized that the reason was because they weren't communicating well with these women, and they weren't empowering the women to make their own choices in ways that would make the women happy. So I ended up very often coaching these major executives, VP level executives at literally Fortune 500 companies around the world, helping them to get good with girls, get good with women. And then after discovering the community, because a friend of mine in New York had sent me a pre-release copy of Neil Strauss's book, having called me up and said, I'm just reading this, it's about you. And I said, what is it? He said, oh, it's about some, pickup guy in Toronto. So I checked it out and I saw all sorts of similar things and recognized some of the players and thought it was very cute. Got in touch with some of the others, and some of them hooked me up with you, Cliff. And then I made a bit of a splash and became quite active in sharing insights. So now I'm one of the old guard in the seduction community, even though I came in a little later than a lot of others, because I have been persistently working primarily in this industry. And interestingly enough, I've never thought of myself as a pickup artist. In fact, I come from the generation where to be described as a pickup artist was a pretty insulting thing. It meant that a woman was being warned about you. He's a pickup artist. He just wants to get something from you for nothing. So what I've spent the last decade or so doing in particular has been trying to get a bunch of what I consider to be particularly significant and vital things across to a community who were being sold a bill of goods that had the potential to look like it was working for them, but very, very unlikely actually would provide them with any satisfaction. So I've been the anti-pickup artist for a long time, in fact. I went on the record in 2008, speaking in Amsterdam at a very, very large conference, the Real Man Conference. And the first thing I began with was saying that a pickup artist is the sexual predator's equivalent of a con artist, a person who offers something of value in exchange for something of value, but has absolutely no intention of actually providing that value. This, of course, got me booed at the beginning of my hour-long talk, and at the end of my hour-long talk, I got a 5-minute-long standing ovation, so I felt pretty good about that. So do you have any particular questions or things I can talk about that will suit your audience right now, Cliff?
Well, let's tackle this pickup artist thing. I realize that it's definitely had some negative connotations attached to it. However, I think the words themselves imply an artist is someone who does it well and is not someone that is seen as a sleazy person who's deceiving people. He's doing it as an artist, which is a complimentary term. And I don't particularly lean towards PUA material and this sort of thing. I focus on, having success with women. I think that's what men really want, and that's what I think. But I do think that the term has been maligned unfairly because it doesn't really take into account what the words actually mean.
Well, okay, I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate the desire to defend pickup arts. And while in my mind there's a tremendous value for a man to learn some of the things that are usually described as pickup arts, in particular, the very notion of being able to approach someone and just say hi without concern that they would be upset or offended at the very notion that you might want to be involved with them in some way is profoundly powerful. In fact, of all the things that I think have been attributed to Ross Jeffries as positive, the concept of sarging, which is basically bothering an unbelievable number of women with the expectation that some won't mind. And that has been tremendously good for a lot of men who previously in their lives had been taught, if you try something and it doesn't work, bail. They all ignored that message that we were taught when we were kids. If at first you don't succeed, try again. And so for a huge number of men, they always imagine that women don't want men to connect with them. They want to be left alone. So here's my take on that. Women don't want to be bothered, but they want to become hot and bothered. They want to get turned on. Most men make a huge fundamental projection, an error that perpetuates and has for years and years. Men imagine, I know what it takes for me to find someone that I would like to engage in sex. I would like to have sex with somebody who I find who has a mystical, magical combination of traits. Simultaneously, they are hot enough, okay, attractive enough, and they appear willing. Okay, that's the magic combination for most men in order to get good and ready to go. Okay, man needs to find someone who is hot enough and willing. And so men, in our minds, we tend to project onto women that the same thing is true for them. This works out to mean, overwhelmingly, almost every man, if asked, if you looked like a runway model, if you looked like the Sports Illustrated cover girl, do you imagine you could get laid on the streetcar? And of course the answer is, yeah, for sure, I'd be having sex all the time. However, almost everyone knows some very attractive women who are constantly complaining they can't find any men. They can't find men to go to bed with. Since I broke up with Kevin, I haven't been to bed with anyone for months and months. And you think, well, okay, since what it takes in order to want to engage in sex with someone is that magical combination of they must be attractive enough and willing. If I were a beautiful, hot babe, everyone would be willing. So the only reason these beautiful, hot babes aren't getting action everywhere they go is because their standards are outrageously high. Attractive enough must be off the scale. But hey, look at me, guys. I do incredibly well with women, and I certainly don't satisfy any of what anyone would imagine are the necessary requirements in terms of looks or attractiveness. I'm considerably overweight. I'm most definitely balding, and I've looked older than I am for most of my life until very recently when I kind of look as old as I am. What I've discovered that was super important in this case is that men are projecting, but we're wrong. We imagine women are like us when it comes to this. And the tricky bit is we become aroused when we see someone attractive enough and we get the signal from them that they might be willing. That is arousing as could be. It gets us all hot and bothered and good to go. For women, a woman sees a really nice looking guy, and she usually has enough experience to realize that 60 seconds of conversation with him and she's going to know whether he's boring as a bar of soap or whether maybe he's got something going for him. So when a woman sees a guy who's particularly attractive, depending on her degree of life experience, she might recognize that, oh, that guy's really good looking. That means he's almost certainly had any number of women make themselves available to him. And he probably really believes that he's terrific in bed, because almost every girl he's ever been with has obviously and clearly had a very powerful and pronounced orgasm right away, okay, almost immediately when they'd started going, or at the very least, after not very long, and in every case. The guy figures, wow, I'm really the shit. And then, of course, none of those girls ever want to hook up with him again. But that doesn't matter because there's always more girls, and he just figures that they must be feeling, post-purchase anxiety, right? Regret, buyer's remorse, I think is the community term. They feel, oh no, he's not going to be interested in them because they gave it up too easily. But the thing that's so interesting is there's only one reason a woman ever fakes an orgasm. Only one ever. She fakes an orgasm to get the guy to stop. Okay? Whatever it is he's doing, whether it's any good and might be okay, but she's getting rubbed raw sore, or she's just bored, or she's convinced that it's never going to happen, she knows the easiest way to close things up is to fake an orgasm so he'll stop. But what's really scary is almost every guy out there has some technique he learned years ago, something that never fails to get every girl he tries it with to have a huge screaming orgasm in almost no time at all. So if things aren't going the way he wants them to, he will almost invariably reach for that special technique. And fellas, let me tell you, if you've got a technique like that, purge it from your repertoire forever. Odds are overwhelmingly good. All it ever did was got every single girl you tried it on to fake an orgasm to get you to stop. Scary, huh? Talk to your girlfriends. They'll tell you I'm right. See, there's no other reason for a girl to fake an orgasm. And there's no such thing as a technique that gets every girl off, because every girl is radically different from every other girl, and each girl is in fact different from herself as the days of her cycle go by, as the minutes of interaction go by. I cannot tell you the number of women I've known who at the beginning of foreplay Their nipples were super sensitive. Okay, needed to be tremendously gentle with them. And then after we'd gotten really hot and bothered, started having sex, when they were nearing orgasm, they practically wanted me to chew those fuckers off. Okay, same girl, her sensitivities change as her hormone levels change. So one of the things that's been important for me has been watching as the world of men have decided we need to be in better shape, more physically fit, better hair, wear makeup or do whatever to look the way that will make women attracted to us. But guys, it's not about being attractive to women. Like I said, women learn that men who are particularly attractive are actually likely to have developed very bad habits and had them confirmed over and over again by women who gave bad feedback. In other words, they rewarded crappy performance by faking an orgasm, and the guys therefore felt they were doing it the right way. So lots of girls, when they see particularly good-looking guys, they figure, meh, it won't be worth it. It's a lot like a lot of my friends, a lot of fellows I think of as my peers, will look at particularly beautiful girls who clearly have the confidence of women who know that any man would do anything to get with them, and think, meh, when we get to bed, she's going to be all stretched out like a starfish and doing nothing because she knows she's so hot that with most guys, her just being there is all that matters. For me, I like a much more participatory girl, which is why I've tended to go for women who make their living off being beautiful. Models and actresses and porn stars and magazine features, because those are girls who understand that it's not enough to be hot. They also need to be able to bring their A game. So the world of men operates under this fallacy that women are like men in terms of that they need for a man to look a particular way in order for the girl to want to hook up with him. And fellas, I can absolutely assure you, what a woman wants, regardless of who she is, always boils down to the same four things. Four things, which I'll come back to in a few moments. And it has almost nothing to do with how you look. Nothing to do with your economic situation, your power in terms of influence, or your physical strength. All of these are nice. You know, they're additions. It's nice if you have them, but it's not the critical stuff. The critical stuff is 100% internal, 100% who you are, rather than what you look like. Because unlike men who have never really evolved or developed or adapted to be able to identify this particularly well, women have evolved to be able to identify at first glance, at a distance, and continuously what a man feels about himself, how a man thinks of himself, and what he believes about himself. Cliffy, do you agree with that?
I was going to be heading in that direction in my questions to you, absolutely.
It's a fantastic thing. While a guy looks at a girl and likes the way she looks, or the clothes she's wearing, or the combination, or how she moves, or whichever, what a girl looks for when she sees a guy is a guy who does not look like he's got anything left to prove. She wants the sense of a man who is not in competition with anyone else. She doesn't want a man who looks like he's trying very hard to be impressive. Guys, I want you to remember this sentence. Memorize it for yourselves. Anything you ever do to be impressive, or worse, to appear impressive, communicates to those whom you'd like to impress that their opinion of you is more important than how you feel about yourself. Get me? anything you do to try and impress someone else sub-communicates to them that their opinion of you is more important than your opinion of you. And I can't think of anything that makes a man smaller in the world than one whose sense of self relies upon other people's opinions of him. We call that narcissistic personality disorder. You may notice, especially if you go through any of my videos and things, if you search for Johnny Soporno online, you'll discover there's only one of me. Soporno is not a common name. And you will find countless interviews and videos of my seminars. I publish everything for free, and I always have. All of my lectures, all of my interviews, everything is free. My friend Zan, our friend Zan, gave me a great pointer about this many years ago. He said, don't worry about piracy, worry about obscurity. And so in the interests of having my message be accepted and received broadly and widely, I decided I would skip the whole piracy concern by just making it available. End result, my seductive reasoning videos, which we recorded in 2006, have had well over 1 million downloads. Not to mention they're available on all the torrent sites as though they were pirates, and all sorts of other things. And when I travel around in various cities, people run up to me at random and go, oh my God, you're Johnny Soporno, I can't believe it. Which I think is kind of cute. So, coming back, every woman in the world who is even remotely heterosexual, every woman who is fundamentally feminine, craves a masculine counterpart. She craves a masculine, independent person who first clearly loves and respects himself. That's the first of the 4 things. Whomever you are, you must make peace with yourself. If you met you, someone who was you in every way, just exactly the way you are, with the same history, same habits, same patterns, and you knew all their history, if you met yourself, would you want you as a friend? The answer has to be, fuck yeah. Okay? Any other answer, you need to probe in and figure out what it is about yourself that you can't accept. And if it's legitimate stuff, like well, I tend to bullshit a lot, right? Or I put my buddies down to get further with girls, or any other terrible act that would justify your not wanting yourself to be your friend, well, as soon as you identify what it is, stop it. I'm amazed you have any friends at all if that's the kind of person you are. So you need to make sure that the person that you are is one you would want to have as a friend. You need to be someone honorable and noble and responsible and respectful, so that you honor yourself and are noble and loyal to yourself. Because women are only interested in men who communicate non-verbally that they love and respect themselves. So I'll frame that one more time. Every woman is looking for a man who comes across as complete. In other words, he knows what his shortcomings are, and he's figured out how to compensate for those. He knows what his strengths are, and he knows how to play to them so that he gets exactly what he's after and makes his world work. This doesn't mean he's a uniform success. It doesn't mean he's rich or powerful or any of these things. It means he likes himself, he's comfortable being him, and he will not allow another person to make him feel badly about who he is, because he realizes that nobody can make you feel badly about yourself without your permission. Okay? Eleanor Roosevelt said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." So When you know who you are, and you are comfortable with who you are, and you'd like to have more like you in your world, then you go, okay, cool. I am who I am. I've made mistakes in my past. I've considered them instead of hiding from my mistakes, learned from them, and stopped repeating them. This means you own your shit. Okay? All the mistakes you've made in your past, you've acknowledged and you've purged, left them at the side of the road, and you're not carrying them with you. Because carrying your shit with you makes for a lousy cologne. Nobody wants to spend time with someone who hasn't made peace with their history. So, one last time, every woman looks for a man who clearly loves, accepts, and respects himself. Okay?
Well, the question I have about this, I think you're going to find most men have this in varying degrees, and sometimes there's maybe smaller pieces and larger pieces missing. And how do you help guys who have those shortcomings in one area in greater or smaller degrees? Sometimes in the smaller degrees, it's just enough that it puts it off, but it's not so pronounced that it's necessarily so obvious.
Sure. Let me summarize your question. There are a lot of men out there who suffer terribly because they haven't got a woman, and so they feel incomplete. What they don't recognize is that this basically makes it impossible for them to find a woman, because women only want to attach themselves to men who are already complete. So what you're asking is, where a man may in fact be quite successful, quite accomplished, good at a lot of things, but there are areas in which he feels he's not good enough, and so he punishes himself. He doesn't allow himself to feel complete because there are some things that he has not yet got worked out. Well, fellas, setting expectations for yourself beyond what you can demonstrate today, based on what you can do if you try your best, is completely unrealistic. Okay? Setting unrealistic expectations for yourself condemns you to feel disappointed by yourself. And people who feel disappointed with themselves are no fun to be around. It's critical that you set your expectations to be only what you already know you can achieve if you try your best right now. In other words, your self-esteem, which tells you what you should estimate yourself as being. If it's too far out of line from what you can demonstrate to yourself, okay, that's your self-confidence. Self-confidence being that which you have a reason to be confident of because you've done it. You've proved it to yourself. You know this is you. If your self-esteem is radically out of line with your self-confidence, you'll never get any real traction in life. So sometimes your self-esteem needs to be curbed down a little bit. Not in the sense of, I have an over-exaggerated expectation of myself, but rather test and accept those things where you think you ought to be able to, be a high jumper, but when you go and try it, you can't manage to get over it. So you say, okay, well, I probably could learn. If I'm interested, I will. But if I don't, I recognize that that's outside of my realm, and I don't expect it of myself any longer. Stop expecting to be the way that other people project onto you, and don't allow yourself to project onto yourself unrealistic, unrealizable expectations. This way, you stop feeling like you're a failure, and you recognize that you are, in fact, very good at being who you are and what you do. Again, I think it was Albert Einstein who said, if you judge a fish by how well it climbs a tree, it's never going to feel good about itself. On the other side of the coin, very few monkeys can swim 2,000 feet below the surface of the water and keep themselves alive, whereas they're very good at climbing trees. Different people have different talent sets, And it's unreasonable to expect yourself to be all things for all people. So instead of punishing yourself for the things you don't do well, manage your expectations so that you only expect those things that you've been able to demonstrate to yourself. If you think there are new things you could be good at, try it, test it. If I were to decide I'm going to be a professional basketball player, that's my goal. I'm going to set for myself an expectation. I'm going to be a professional basketball player. Well, the first week I would go out and try and play some basketball, and very quickly I would realize I'm clearly not up to be a professional basketball player, and I might feel very badly about myself because I set my goals to be unrealistically high. If instead I thought, I'm going to learn how to play better basketball. So I joined a YMCA team or some local community group or just hung out where there was a basketball court with the intention of practicing and learning from other people, I'd have no reason to feel badly about myself because very quickly I would be improving in my basketball game. If it turned out I could eventually get to a point where simply by expecting of myself that I'm going to continually get better until I can't any longer, if I realized, I should try out for a professional team, hey, give that a shot. But to set for yourself an expectation that requires you to be up here when you're starting out down here is crazy. It's very, very difficult to find motivation when all you're experiencing is disappointment in yourself. Whereas it's very easy to find motivation if you set for yourself a realistic expectation, accomplish it, and then say, I wonder how much further I can go. Keep growing and growing in steps. When it comes to women, exactly the same thing is true. I'm not saying try for lesser women. I'm saying when you go to engage women, go to engage them knowing that you have these 4 essentials, or at least 3 of them. And like I said, I'm going to continue along that line in a moment. And don't for a moment feel badly if the woman you engage with and try and talk with seems unimpressed or not particularly interested. It's going to be that way. It's going to be that way because not everyone can be anything for everyone. But there are plenty of people for whom any man who has these essentials will be enough. So again, the first one is you have to demonstrably, without having to say a word about it, be comfortable enough in yourself that it's obvious to women that you love yourself for who you are, not perfect, not complete in terms of your progress throughout life, but you've arrived now. You are complete right now because you're the person you wish to be. A person who's on a journey that grows and develops and becomes bigger. But for right now, you are not tasked by things you can't accomplish. All the things you expect of yourself are things you can do. So you feel your self-esteem is matched by your self-confidence. You feel a sense of accomplishment, and you feel motivation to get better and go forward. So every woman wants a man who loves himself and respects himself. Second thing, she wants a man who she can sense loves and appreciates and adores women. He doesn't carry a grudge against them. He hasn't got anger with them. He's not pissed off because women aren't like men. In fact, he loves that women aren't like men. He doesn't go, what's wrong with these girls? Why can't they figure out what they want? He thinks how wonderful women are. I'm going to get to know each individual one, learn about them, learn about the things that interest them, try and figure them out. I often say, one of the things I strive to do is help men get girls. But I don't mean get them like collect them. I mean get them intellectually. Because once you get women, you can get as many women as you want. Once you can really get girls, They'll be delighted to spend time with you because you get them. And that's incredibly powerful. So the second thing is you need to be able to, without saying a word, have come to peace, comfort, and enthusiasm about women. It must be clear to them that you accept them non-judgmentally, that you don't carry or harbor any hostility towards them because they haven't done right by you or because you were screwed over by a previous girl or for whatever reason. You have to be confident that each woman is different and that while there will be tremendously predictable things in the large, every woman is chaotic in the small, and each individual woman bears discrete investigation. The third thing, and this is kind of funny, is you must effortlessly communicate your playful confidence. Our friend Stripped from Amsterdam coined that term 10 years ago or more, Richard. And playful confidence is the kind of self-comfort that makes it that a man is completely aware that if he has to grab the steering wheel or the reins to compensate or correct a problem, he can. But if someone else is running the show, he's totally comfortable letting them do that. He's completely fine with solving problems when there's a need, and he's completely fine with allowing problems to persist if they're not his business or his concern. He does not feel an overriding need to grab the wheel from other people. He's happy to let them do their thing. Playful confidence means he can make light of things that truly aren't that serious. He knows the difference between what requires real attention and what can be played around with, joked about. Women love a man whose nature conveys to them that he is so self-accepting that he will confidently and cavalierly lead them on adventures they would enjoy. Women desperately want to have fun. And the best part of it is they want to be able to hand over the keys to someone else who will lead them to fun adventures. Zan always says women don't want to be your adventure, they want to be taken on an adventure. And that's essential. It's critical to understand. Women in my day, if a girl would show up in her car, she would hand me the keys to her car, expecting me to drive, even if I didn't have a car there. Cliff, do you remember those days?
A little bit, yes.
Women want to hand over responsibility for getting to the venue, choosing the entertainment to a man. They want him to say, I have this plan in mind. And in fact, they really want you to broadcast your confidence that you've made the right choices so that you never have to say, does this sound good to you? Is this okay? Would you rather something else? No girl wants to be with a man where he's saying, what do you want for dinner? Yeah? How about this? No? How about this? No? This makes them crazy just like it makes us crazy. So again, the three first things, these ones are uniformly necessary. The man must love and respect himself. The man must adore and treasure women. And the man must be comfortable enough and confident enough to lead her on adventures she would enjoy, ideally without having to ask her what those are. Okay? Those three are necessary. The fourth one is a requirement for a woman to feel bonded and connected with a man with whom she will feel in love. Okay? Everyone watching this, think back on relationships you've had where it was clear that your partner was in love with you. If you've ever had one, you'll know every single woman, when she's truly in love with a man, believes those first three things are obvious about him. She believes he loves and respects himself. She believes he loves and treasures women. And she believes he's playfully confident in a way that she can relax and let him lead on adventures she'll enjoy. The fourth thing is the man must actually be interested in the woman as an individual. He must actually be interested in the things that make her tick, who she is, why she's the way she is, the things she's enthusiastic about, her dreams and aspirations, her fears, her family, her friends, her hobbies, the things that matter to her. If it's obvious that the man cares about her as an individual, is not just attracted to her, but is actually interested in her, and of course he's got those first three, she'll be completely smitten, and she'll be prepared to consistently invest in ensuring that he remains interested in her. Now, once in a relationship, if any of those first three start to waver, the woman will feel betrayed by the fact that the man no longer demonstrates that he loves and respects himself, no longer demonstrates that he loves and treasures women, no longer demonstrates that he's comfortable and confident enough to lead. Any of these three will cause the relationship to collapse, to crater in powerful ways, because the woman will feel so disappointed. And the most conspicuous way this happens is a man hooks up with a woman and stops being free and independent and powerful and self-respecting and starts kissing his beloved's ass. He starts compromising himself for her or letting her get away with stuff that she doesn't believe she's justified in being able to get away with. Every woman wants the confident masculine presence in her life to run herd on her, to keep her on the straight and narrow, to keep her from going too far afield. She wants to believe that if she asks for something ridiculous, he's going to look at her and go, why in the world would you want that? Or, no, that's not acceptable. Because as soon as a woman believes that her man will bend to suit her whim, she'll totally lose respect for him. And the worst part is, no woman can be sexually satisfied by a man. She can't even be aroused by a man she doesn't respect. So the moment a woman feels you don't respect yourself, she'll become angry with you. And if you demonstrate a consistency of not standing up for yourself, she'll become contemptuous of you, and she'll start treating you very badly. Cliff, have you ever had anything like this happen?
Of course.
Absolutely. Every man learns this lesson the hard way. If you bend for a girl, she'll hate you for it. She's counting on you to be the replacement for the daddy that you've taken over for in terms of providing her with her emotional structure and her sponsorship. She wants to know that she's not going to be able to get you to give in to her whims just by asking without making it an obvious favor. So here's the kicker to this, guys. It's critically important that you never give in to a girl's requests or demands unless you arrange a contract of appreciation. This doesn't necessarily require anything further than her acknowledging that she's asking you for something that you are not happy with, but you're prepared to do it for her as a favor because it's her. So if my girl were to come up to me and say, hey, Johnny, I just got some pink ballerina costumes. I wanted to dress us both up in ballerina costumes and go to my company Christmas party this year. It'll be fun. What do you think? What do you say? I go, well, gee, I don't think I'd be very happy with that. It doesn't seem to suit me. So come on, it'll be fun. We'll have a good time. Well, it isn't something I'd like to do, but for you, if it matters enough, sure, I'll do it for you if you'd like me to, as a favor. Now, she might go, oh, come on. I just think it's going to be fun. If she will not commit to appreciating me for doing it, I won't do it. So I'll give you a for example that actually happens in my life every once in a while. Violet, with whom I've been living now for 12 incredible years, and I have a wonderful, completely open relationship. And open doesn't just mean the door is open, you can come and go when you please. It doesn't mean open legs or open lips. It means open communication. We have no secrets. People who see us together can't get over that nothing changes in what I'm saying if Violet walks into the room and walks past. Because I have no secrets from her. The one thing nobody gets to see is, oh, because I never have to look around to see if she's within earshot. Everything I say is exactly what I would say if she was sitting right next to me. This kind of openness, the clarity, the transparency, makes it incredibly easy for us to be best friends as well as most favorite lovers. Most people's relationships are stressful because so much of the time is spent pretending to be someone they aren't so that they won't scare off their beloved. I often say, these days the statistic says about 50% of first marriages end in divorce, which is not the scary number. The scary part is that 50% of them end in death. And the reason that number is so low, only 50%, is because so many people figured, I can get out of a bad marriage. For a long time, people would get into a marriage and wouldn't have the courage to exit it. We know this is still true because almost 80% of second marriages end in divorce. That means people who already know they can get out of a bad marriage are quick to get out of a bad marriage the second time they see that pattern repeating. So almost everyone will tell you that marriages take work, right? Cliff, what do you think? Do relationships take work? Do marriages take work?
Yes, but at the same time, when you have, I guess your behavior in a certain way, as if you know where you're going and what you're doing, they seem to take care of themselves in its own way.
That's how it should be. As a matter of fact, if you stop and think about it, all your relationships with other people, all your relationships with your dearest friends require no work. Those relationships work on their own. They continue and persist without any unpleasant effort needing to be added. Sure, you might help your buddy move, or you might run out in the middle of the night to bring him a tire patch or something, or help him out. That's not work. That's part of the nature of good friendship. The work that undermines most relationships, when we're talking about male-female committed relationships, is that, and the reason why 50% of first marriages end in failure, is because almost everybody ends up marrying a stranger. Almost everybody marries someone where one or both of them spent the entire courtship pretending to be different than they were so that they could appear to their partner to be the way they presumed their partner needed them to be. In other words, almost everyone goes into a love relationship pretending to be the way they imagine their partner needs them to be, instead of allowing their partner to get them to learn who they are and accept them for who they are. Remember how those close personal friendships long-term committed, non-committed, but long-term best friends don't require work to keep the relationships going, that's because neither of you is spending any time trying to pretend to be someone you aren't. You expect your friends to accept you for who you are, and we accept them for who they are. So in my relationship with my girlie, I know her intimately in every sense. She knows me intimately in every way. So we have no need whatsoever to keep things hidden from each other, including the other people we find attractive, or even the other people we want to hook up with, or the people we do hook up with, because we want our beloved to have the best time possible. Well, once in a while, particularly when she's PMSing for real, Violet might say to me, as I'm getting dressed and I'm planning to leave, I'm going to go out and do something, she'll say, "Where are you going? You're going off to get laid, aren't you?" I go, "Well, actually, no, I'm going to go see my friend Gary. We're going to go to a pool hall, play some pool for a while." She'll say, "Sure, I know you." I'll say, "Well, okay. Is this a problem for you?" "No, fine. Just go do what you want to do." "Right, okay. Do you need me not to go out and have sex with someone else? Will this matter to you?" "No, fine. Do what you're going to do." "Baby, I'll try again. If you ask me to, I will be happy not to hook up with anyone sexually or meet anyone new and go to bed with them. I will simply go out and do what I was going to do and come home to you alone. But if you're not prepared to ask me for that, then that's not what's likely to happen." And she'll be in a pissed off mood, and she'll say, "Fine, I know what you're like. You're just going to go out and meet some new girl and go to bed with her." I say, "Fine. If you're not prepared to ask me not to, then I will do my very best not to return home until I've been with somebody else. How's that?" And when it's clear that she's having a hard time with it, I'll say, "Okay, one last time, all you have to do, if you want me to not go out and have sex with someone else tonight, is ask me. Baby, would you please not?" And she'll go, "Baby, could you, I'm feeling fragile. Would you please not?" I say, of course. It's not a problem. All you need to do is communicate to me. Because passive aggression, right, saying, "Oh, sure, you're going to go out and do whatever," in a way that's designed to make a man feel badly about himself. Passive aggression is a form of emotional blackmail. And emotional blackmail, like any other form of terrorism, you mustn't negotiate with. So I let whomever know, if there's something you like, tell me what it is. Most of the time, I'm more than happy to be accommodating because there's an endless supply of everything. I'm not worried if she says, "Could you not go out and get laid tonight?" No problem. I can go out and get laid anytime, never a hardship. Keeping her happy is something I do as a love labor. It's a happy thing. So, to tidy that whole last chunk of stuff, in order to have a quality relationship with anyone, you have to own your shit and be the person you are unreservedly. You have to make peace with, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be good enough for you. When you feel good enough for you, and it's obvious that you don't feel badly about the things you aren't, because you'll get that handled eventually, or you've got other people to handle it for you in exchange for things that you do well. You've got things worked out. And when you are self-accepting and self-respecting, and it's clear that you will not be manipulated, you will not give up your strength or power, except where someone asks you explicitly to do something exceptional for them, and therefore they communicate to you that they will truly appreciate that you are doing this with your eyes wide open, making a choice. As long as you demonstrate yourself to be that kind of man, the kind who loves and respects himself, is confident being him, adores and appreciates women, and is playfully confident, doesn't take life too seriously, does the things that make sense to you, and invites your beloved or the women that you're entertaining or anyone, male and female alike, to come along and have a good time. That kind of leadership is profoundly inspirational. So in order to be able to be that kind of person, the kind who satisfies those 4 things for a woman, you need to first have those first 3, and finally have a woman you're actually interested in. And that will make for a wonderful relationship. And the thing that every relationship you'll ever have with any woman who is like that, where it's like that, when she's in love with you, she will tell everyone, you're the kind of man who could have any woman he wanted. In fact, if you stop and think about your relationships with women in the past, if you've ever had a woman in love with you, you know, as far as she was concerned, you could have any woman you wanted. She may have been concerned that every time you walked out the door, you'd be going off and finding someone new to replace her because her self-confidence wasn't very good. But her confidence in you was profound. She knew, because you already had the 3 things that are a requirement for any woman to find a man arousing, and you were interested in her. So she knew that any woman you were interested in would be smitten by you. Do you follow what I'm saying, fellas? Do you understand what I'm saying, Cliff?
Totally.
Guys, it's really as simple as that. Now, why I'm telling you this, and it's absolutely critical and essential, okay? Just 4 things to have any woman that you're interested in love with you. She will believe those things are true about you, and as long as she consistently believes those things are true, your relationship will be swimming and wonderful. However, in order to get to that place, first, you have to manage your expectations so clearly you accept yourself. You have to feel positively about you. You have to believe in yourself, feel that if you met you, you'd want to have yourself as a friend. That means you have to get rid of all the things about you you wouldn't want in a friend. You have to be loyal to yourself first, not prepared to throw yourself under a bus for a random stranger or even for a friend where you wouldn't be doing it because it would make you feel better about you. In other words, it's always appropriate to make a sacrifice for someone who will appreciate it, but never appropriate to make a sacrifice when no one will appreciate it. When you sacrifice and it's unappreciated, it takes away from you. When you become comfortable enough in yourself, you'll start to feel that huge abundance that comes from successfulness. Successfulness is the paradigm I've been sharing for years. It's very simple. When your self-esteem is matched by your self-confidence and it's appropriately lofty, you feel you've arrived. You may not be perfect, but you're good enough and you're happy with it. You feel accomplished. Conjoin that with self-sustaining happiness, and suddenly you start to radiate this wonderful glow that everyone wants to spend time around. People want to bask in being around you because people who simultaneously love themselves and appreciate and accept themselves and are happy. Wow, just take a moment and think about the people in your life who you've known, who feel they are who they should be. They're comfortable and confident and playful and light and happy. Aren't those the kind of people you really want to spend time with?
Of course.
So how do you become that sort of person? Well, you figure out where happiness comes from. You figure out that happiness is always, always yours, all the time. You can be happy every minute of every day, even when disasters befall you. All you have to do is remember that happiness is purely a state of mind, purely a choice, and never, ever reliant on anything outside of you. So, I don't know how much more time we've got, Cliff. I can talk forever, as you know.
No, there's no limit. As long as you're sharing good information, I'm listening. So that's fine.
Well, shit, where am I going to find good information? Okay. Well, in that case, I'll take a moment and give your audience happy balls.
That's a good gift.
Happy balls are about the best thing I've ever found that I can give to anyone. And fortunately, it doesn't cost anything except a few moments. And every one I give away, I feel better about myself. And fellas, most people think I'm I'm profoundly generous. And I think I am the most self-invested person I know. Okay? I would say selfish, but selfish gets a bad rap because people think it's an evil, awful thing. The truth is, the only reason I ever do anything is because I believe it's going to make me feel good about me. The only reason I ever do anything at all is because I believe doing so will make me feel good about me. So why do I go way out of my way for lots of people? Why do I do all sorts of things to help friends and facilitate people, even help strangers if I've got the time? Because doing so makes me feel good about me. Most important thing in the world, how I feel about myself. Nothing else matters except how we feel about ourselves. Because when I'm feeling good about me, other people can sense that I feel good about me. Nobody wants to spend time with someone who broadcasts that they don't like themselves. Nobody wants to spend time with someone who obviously is not happy. People want to have light, happy, powerful, socialized folks around them. It's very, very easy for me to inspire conversations with anybody because I walk up with a sincere, happy smile. I have transcended the alpha male temperament. I have modified it by one letter from alpha male to aloha male. Just rotate the P to an O. As an aloha male, which justifies my aloha shirts, I've made my peace with my life and my reality. I am so happy to be here. I cannot imagine wanting to be someone other than me. The only way I'd like to be is the way I expect I'll be as I have greater and greater successes down the line. I would not trade places with anybody. I am so happy being me. I do not feel there's a hierarchy. I do not feel I have anything left to prove or anyone left to impress because I have accepted and made my peace with me. All my decisions, the results of my decisions, validate me. I feel profoundly actualized because I make decisions based upon my own reasoning, taking into account that I am responsible for the life I live. There's no escaping it, and there's no one else to place blame with. I can't be responsible for anything I can't control. But I can control which of my emotions I pay attention to. I can control which of my thoughts I act out upon. And so I'm always happy, and I feel profoundly self-satisfied, and I love the work I do, and I love making people's lives better. And I make a decent living off of helping a lot of people who are fundamentally terrific folks. But for whatever reason, they've bought into so much crufty garbage in terms of artifacts that they believe they're here to suffer, that they can never be good enough, that other people's opinions are more important about them than their own opinions. And these things make it impossible for a person to feel proud and happy and accomplished and effective. And so a lot of those people come to me to learn about successfulness. And I love that because I've got the best job in the world. I make my living by making friends. In fact, I make friends for a living. People show up at my door basically as a kit, and I help them to disassemble themselves if they were shoddily put together, or to better assemble themselves, throwing away all the crufty baggage that serves no one and doesn't help them feel happy, until they are refined, self-supporting, stable, and pretty soon they become people that I would like to have as my own friend. And so I get to make friends all the time, people I really enjoy. And then it's a joy watching their successes, facilitating their successes, introducing them to other people, because as soon as they throw away all that garbage that they can't use, that doesn't help, that makes them suffer, and they become the person that they have the potential to be, it's just awesome. And watching a whole whack of people whom I adore getting to know one another and building a stronger and more powerful posse, for lack of a better term, people with profoundly complementary skills who are all very happy to contribute what they can to a brilliant stone soup that can feed everybody. It's awesome. So let me come back for a moment. I'm going to reach in my pocket and I'm going to pull out my happy ball. Okay. This, you probably can't see it. The camera isn't great at showing metaphorical spheres, but this is my happy ball. Okay. It cannot be taken away from me. It cannot be lost or stolen. And I never need to worry about it being given away and not brought back, because I never have to give it away. This one has an unlimited quantity of happiness to it. So I'm just going to make it a little bigger so I can give a piece of it to you. I'm going to do that right through the internet. It's really cool the way it works. So here I've made my happy ball a little bigger. I'm going to break it apart like silly putty. All right, let me just put this piece here. Just a moment, I'm going to put mine away. I'm going to start working on yours. Now, the thing about happy balls is they're metaphorical constructions, and you can make them any size you want. They can be the size of a football or a medicine ball. They can be the size of a golf ball, a marble, just whatever you like. You can change the size at any point. Beautiful thing, isn't it? This beautiful sphere. Now, the thing about happy balls is it's a metaphor. You probably know some people who are miserable all the time. People who, no matter how many good things are going on in their world, they'll still be miserable. They can always find the dark cloud and never the silver lining. Right? So if you know some people who are miserable all the time, recognize that misery is a choice. They choose to frame things to justify their misery. Now, why would they choose misery? Well, for most people, they choose it because they can rely on it. It's comforting. Oh, misery. At least I know you'll never run out on me. I don't have to generate new misery. I can always find a reason to be miserable. Happiness, they think, is fleeting. I only get happiness when I accomplish the things I've set out for myself. Or I get happiness when I know I've made other people happy. Because these are things we learn in our childhood that are completely wrong. When we're little kids, we grow up believing that happiness is the reward we get for pleasing other people. Do what your parents want. Your parents are happy, you get to be happy. Don't do what your parents want. Your parents are unhappy. It's very hard for you to be happy. Go to school. Do what the teacher wants. Teacher's happy. You get to be happy. You come home with a good report card. Your parents are happy. Everyone's happy. Come home with a bad report card because you weren't doing things that make your teacher happy. Your parents are unhappy. It's very hard to be happy. So one of the two fallacies that everyone carries is the idea that happiness is the reward we get for pleasing other people. The second is the notion that it's okay to postpone being happy. Well, I'm miserable now, but if I keep working at this miserable job for long enough, I'll eventually get promoted, and then I'll be happy. I'll be happy when I get the key to the executive washroom. I'll be happy when I get my own parking space. I'll be happy when I get a better job title. I'll be happy if I make $10,000 more a year. All of these things, these artificial things, when we achieve them, we don't become happy. We're delighted in the moment, and then immediately afterwards, we find new things we need to accomplish in order to be happy. Because happiness doesn't come from the accomplishment of particular things. Happiness comes from choosing to acknowledge that you were born to be happy. Every infant is born, and unless it is literally uncomfortable, it's happy. So unless it's sitting in its own feces or urine and being unattended, or it's hungry, or it's sick, it's happy, or it's frightened. Every child is born with a few kinds of fears, but overwhelmingly it's very unlikely to be exposed to those as an infant. And so, generally speaking, babies are happy. In fact, only after they develop an ego do they start thinking, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I shouldn't be happy. Maybe I haven't pleased other people enough. Otherwise, they're just happy. Well, we're born to be happy. And in fact, only through crappy thinking are we ever not happy. So, as an anchor to remind you of this, I have made you this glorious happy ball. As soon as you have a happy ball, anytime you're not feeling good, just take it out and look at it and realize you have everything that you need in order to be happy right now, just because you have this happy ball. Because after all, just like misery, happiness is a choice. So I'm going to give you your happy ball in just a moment. First, there's this little imperfection from where I separated it from the previous happy ball. I call this a worry wart. I'm going to take this, just a moment, I'm going to peel it down like I was peeling a pearl, taking off the unnecessary layer on the outside to make a flawless new sphere. This is going to be your happy ball. And this worry wart and the unnecessary stuff, I'm going to toss it away. That's there to remind me that no amount of worry will ever contribute at all to any amount of happy. Worry adds nothing and consumes everything. Worry is what we do when there's nothing we can do. Our brains don't like to do nothing. So if there's something we're waiting for, and for whatever reason it hasn't happened yet, our brains start getting busy, thinking about ways in which it could disastrously fail. You're waiting at the airport. Your girl is supposed to arrive at 6:45, but it's 7:30 and she hasn't shown up yet. You start going, oh, was she injured? Did the plane explode? All these things can't possibly help you. All of that is just your brain's way of screwing with your head, and it keeps upping the ante until you really get upset. To give you something to do. That's pointless. The solution to worry is planning. Say, well, okay, if she missed her plane, she'll no doubt call me soon. I'll come back for the next plane. If she had a problem, I'll sort it out with her. Whatever happens, okay, either I will plan for it now or I'll plan to deal with it when I know more about it. That way you can set aside the worrying and get on living happily. And you take out your happy ball and life is good. It's funny, sometimes I'll be out in a bar or something and I'll look over and I'll see someone that I've coached or someone that I've met or someone that I know is familiar with my work, and I've given a lot of these happy balls away for a long time. And I'll glance over at them because they're looking bummed, and I'll look at them confused, like, you shouldn't be unhappy. And I'll show them my happy ball like this. And suddenly their face will light up as they realize that they're suffering for nothing. So I want you to put your hands out in front of you. I'm going to drop the happy ball into your hands. Now, it'll be pretty massive. You're going to feel it when it lands, okay? I want you to take it and recognize it can never be taken from you, no matter what. I'm not going to tell you where you have to hide it if you're being strip searched or something. I'll let you figure that out on your own. But suffice it to say that since it's a metaphorical construction, you can never, ever have it taken from you once you have it, okay? So now put your hands out, all right? I'm going to drop this. Are you ready? All right, ready? There we are. Okay, now, with any luck, you're grinning like an idiot because you've just received this metaphorical gift. The beautiful thing about it is you can now go through what we just discussed, what I had just explained to you, and explain it to other people, because there's a whole world out there who really believe that they have a reason to be unhappy, when in fact, it's just a habit for them to be unhappy. Or they don't realize that they can be happy and should be just because they're alive. You're alive. There's nothing holding you back. The only chains that exist are in your mind. The bars that make up whatever cage you feel you're trapped in are made up by your projections of the opinions of other people. And you can simply walk out anytime. There's nothing holding you back. You are free all the time because you always have choice. Always, in every case. Now, I'm sitting here knowing, as I say, I'm fat and old looking and heavy and balding, etc. But I also know that I am uniformly well received. People love to be around me. I love to have people around me. I love to do nice things for people. Women come out of the woodwork to meet me. When I'm out at a place and I see some beautiful girl across the room, I look over and I go, well, gee, she's nice to look at. I like the way she carries herself. I like her body language. I like her clothing. But I don't know anything else about her. I just know she's attractive. I know she's attractive because I feel attracted to her. That's all I know. I also know that she doesn't know anything about me, and there's no reason at all to imagine that she's going to be interested in me at this point. But I do know something. I know that I'm awesome. I know that everyone who meets me is better off. They're better off because at the very least, they got to meet someone who loves himself for legitimate reasons. Someone who'd be very happy to meet himself. So when I see an attractive looking woman, I will, recognizing that she has no reason not to like me, I'll walk over completely comfortable and happy, not to get her to like me, not to get her approval. I don't give a shit about that. I truly don't. I walk over to find out whether I can stand her. And that's going to take a little while. First, I'll have to go over and introduce myself and start a conversation and see whether or not she's a nice person. Usually, it's funny, I had this conversation with Zan a number of years ago. He agreed with me completely. Generally speaking, if I find myself in a conversation with a woman where we've been having back and forth conversation for 5 minutes and I'm still interested in what she's got to say, we'll usually go to bed. This is because the longer I'm actively listening to what she's got to say, the more attractive I become to her. Funny that. My actively be interested in her as a person makes me compelling. Everyone likes talking about their favorite subjects, and their favorite subjects are usually themselves and the things that are interesting to them. So I'll walk up to the prettiest girl in the room if she looks like she's not sitting there with her biker boyfriend who will stab me for doing so. If she looks like there's an opportunity to start a conversation, I'll walk up and I'll go, "Hey, I'm Johnny. What's your name?" And women have evolved to be able to sense at a distance what a man feels about himself. And she tends to want to follow a man's lead. In other words, if I walked over there going, geez, I sure hope she likes me. What if she doesn't like me? Neurotic and full of self-doubt. And I introduce myself. She's going to sense that I'm full of self-doubt. She's going to follow my lead and doubt me. And it'll be very hard to get any sort of traction. If I think, I'm going to posture that I'm big and strong and super and wonderful, even though I don't believe it, I'm going to show up knowing I'm full of shit. She's going to sense that I can tell I'm full of shit, and she's going to treat me like I'm full of shit. So instead, I walk up knowing I'm the real deal, knowing I can deliver the goods, that I'm the person I'd like to be, and I'm someone that I know will be well received by people who are self-accepting. I only want high self-esteem people in my world. It's too much work to have to carry all their emotional baggage. I don't have a porter's hat, and nobody is tipping me for carrying it. So I'd rather have them deal with their stuff. I'll just be a confident confidant. I'll be a facilitator where possible. I'll offer advice if asked. But I don't spend a lot of time with people who are not self-reliant because it's just too much of a burden. But when I walk up to a new girl, I'm going to find out whether she's got anything to talk about. Is this someone I'm going to enjoy in the morning when she's gone and had her shower and come back to the bed? Am I going to want to have a conversation with her, or am I going to grab my clothes and want to get out of there? Generally speaking, guys, I put way too much into the sex act for me ever to go to bed with anyone I wouldn't be prepared to go to bed with a number of times, ideally any number of times. So I only want to hook up with people where I'm actually confident we're going to develop a real friendship. So life gets to be easier and easier when you've got a happy ball and you see someone who's lovely but looks down in the dumps. You can go over and say, "Hey, you look like you're having a rough night. Is there anything I can do? Do you have a happy ball?" Almost always, girls are happy to hear about this. In fact, guys are too. You can do this for dudes, do this for couples. Give them the gift of appreciating that they are independently able to control the way they look at life. They don't have to be victims. Now, I've been talking for a long time, and frankly, I enjoy it. But I've got all sorts of free seminars, lectures, and interviews available. If you go to johnnysoporno.com, or better yet, successfulness.com, you'll find all sorts of stuff. You can also just Google me so that I don't have to go through 6 or 7 more hours of stuff that you can get from other sources. And throughout the year, my business is holding small group and occasionally large group workshops around the world, usually well described in advance, where people come for a weekend of extremely intense psychological and intellectual reframing and emotional purging so that they can make peace with themselves, set reasonable and accomplishable expectations, manage their life so that they always feel good about themselves. They feel successful and accomplished. They take greater and greater chances with lesser and lesser risks. And they love being the people they are. And they get to reach out for other people who, like them, have nothing in the world that will matter to them so much as how they feel about each other, how they feel about themselves. Because when you feel that way, and you see someone else who feels that way, the idea that you can positively impact their life makes you feel fantastic. And so there's this wonderful lattice that grows very quickly of people who all recognize the intrinsic worthiness of other people as soon as they appreciate it about themselves. And so you have an interconnection with all sorts of people who you wish to help if you can, because you get the reward of feeling good about yourself. And everyone who feels good about themselves buoys up everyone else. As the water comes into the marina, all the ships rise at once. You know, there are so many rabbit holes and tangents and things I could jump into. How about I jump onto one quick one? Guys, almost every male not only misunderstands what a woman is looking for, what she's looking for is a man who arouses her, and that will require those 3, certainly, and ideally 4 personality markers. She wants someone who's going to arouse her so that her brain will start fantasizing about you. And when she masturbates, and all the different faces of all the men she knows show up, most of them get immediately disqualified because they're too needy or clingy or too effeminate, okay? Not respect-worthy. But then yours will come up, and she'll hold on to it until she gets herself off. Interesting thing, my name, Johnny Soporno, was a derivative of Tony Soprano, because I looked enough like James Gandolfini when that show started that I was getting asked for his autograph everywhere. Interesting thing is, before that show, if I was on Hot or Not or some other public evaluation of my looks, I'd score about a 4 out of 10 because women were merciful. After that show, I started to look a lot more like James Gandolfini in the minds of women, because their minds, suddenly an overset, stocky, Mediterranean complexioned guy reminded them of Tony Soprano, a powerful, masculine, dominant, effective, compassionate, but unyielding powerhouse. And so suddenly my Hot or Not scale scores went up to the 7.5 area without my having to do anything, which was hysterical. The truth is, a woman will remap what she finds arousing and what she finds attractive based on what she was thinking about when she got herself off. Which is why just about every girl who hooks up with an Asian guy for the first time, if she's not Asian, will suddenly, even if she never considered hooking up with an Asian guy before, after she's had some sort of sexual success with an Asian guy, start considering Asian guys hot. Same with black guys or East Indian guys or any other sort of guys. She'll suddenly retask that phenotype into her acceptable category, despite the fact that previously it was men who reminded her of the characters on TV shows or soap operas or movies or whatever. So women who have never met me get told about me by other women who know me well. And they're always astonished when they come to meet me because I don't look anything like the way I'm described to them. I'm described as gorgeous and beautiful and sexy. And girls meet me and they first see me and those words don't come to their mind. However, once they get to know me well, and certainly once we go to bed together, they remap in their mind, and the person I am suddenly becomes those things for them. So, coming back to sex, I'm going to give you all the number one most important distinction between men and women regarding sex, the thing that every man must realize, even more important than realizing that if you've got a technique that every girl seems to get off from right away, it's because she's faking, and they're all faking, and don't use that technique anymore. For women, sex is usually a fairly slow process. It's kind of like sitting in the front of a roller coaster, waiting, usually for quite a while, as you get dragged tick, 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 tick up towards that first hump, after which it's all really exciting and fun and dramatic. But the build-up, tick, 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 takes an unpredictable amount of time. And if it's not going very well, women will recognize they're not actually likely to get to that fun part. And so they'll do the only thing that they've ever learned is the right way to deal with the circumstance. Fellas, you've probably masturbated, and you've probably masturbated to some sort of porn or something and gotten off, and it was okay. It was more pleasant than not doing it, but it wasn't profound, and it didn't make you feel you needed to pass out right away. Whereas if you've masturbated after making out with some girl you're really into for 45 minutes, it's almost the same as if you'd just gotten off while making love to that same girl or another girl. Because your brain chemistry changes when you're in the presence of another person's pheromones and their energy. And your body releases a chemical called prolactin, which is that chemical that makes you feel, oh, that was great. I'm just going to have a little lie down. That wonderful sensation women also get when the sex is excellent. Most women will never, ever go out to have a one-night stand. They might say they've gone out to have a one-night stand. What they really mean is they're going to go out to have sex tonight. They don't care if the guy is not up to the standards they would normally wish for. Most of the time, tonight, they want to get laid. So they'll look for someone who seems to have the potential to turn them on, get themselves into a frenzied state, take the guy to bed, and it doesn't matter how dreadful he is. Because if what he's doing is all wrong and never going to get them off, or what he's doing is almost right, but they don't have any reason to want to invest in teaching him or confidence that if they tell him what they'd really like, he won't become resentful and awful to them, because guys will do that. Because guys imagine they're supposed to be great in bed. So the girl will hook up with a guy, fake an orgasm to get him to stop, send him on his way, and then get herself off, and the orgasm will be profoundly better than it would be if she'd just gotten herself off without having had a guy around. And she'll feel the satisfaction that she craves. So plenty of girls will go out, have a one-night stand in the sense that they're never going to hook up with that guy again because he couldn't deliver the goods, but at least they got off and they were happy about it and the stress was gone. So the key thing to remember is girls, the closer they get to orgasm, the less able they are to record or remember what's going on around them. In order for a woman to have a significant orgasm, she pretty much needs to have entirely disconnected the portion of her brain called the amygdala that manages her sensations of safety and security. She has to have completely shut off communication between her thinking portion of her brain, her feeling portion of her brain, and her security center. And when she's shut that down, and by the way, this can be observed on functional MRI, then it's easy for her to reach orgasm. So usually on that long roller coaster drag up, if you're doing exactly the right things, everything's terrific, she stops moving. In fact, the only reason a woman moves around while you're doing things with her is to get you into position. So whether you're using your fingers or your mouth or your penis, when you're doing something to a girl, when you're doing the right thing, she stops communicating. She stops communicating inside herself, and she stops reporting how she's feeling. It's possible she'll make murmurs or whatever, but her body will stop moving because she no longer feels the need to seek, to hunt, to get you into the right position. When you're doing something with a girl and she's moving, it's because she's trying to get what you're doing to be in a place where it will be appropriate for her. So if a girl pushes her pelvis up, it means she needs you to be pushing down harder. If she goes to the left, it means she needs you to be a little more on the right. She modifies her position to make what you're doing work. Problem is, every guy fails to understand this. You see, if you had an itch on your right shoulder blade and someone came to scratch it and was off by an inch to the left, you would rotate your body so that where they were scratching would be the right place, so you'd get scratched. It would really drive you crazy if they moved to stay relationally where they had been when you had moved your body to make it more effective. But you see, that's what guys do to girls all the time. A guy will be tonguing a girl, for example, and she'll move, and the guy will move with her. That's not what she needs. She moves, you stay still. Stay still until she stops moving. She's only moving to get you into the right place. When she's in the right place, you're in the right place. Further and further up goes the roller coaster. Now, the thing is, when she's no longer in a position to communicate, or even to have communication from the front to the back of her brain, she also has no idea about the passage of time. So sometimes a girl will take 45 minutes of you doing exactly the same thing in order to get off. And she won't know how to tell you. By the way, it takes me a really, really long time because she's got no idea of it unless she was told it by men. And she probably had a guy doing the right thing. So, of course, she stopped communicating because there was no reason to, and her brain wanted to settle into just enjoying the experience. And the guy thinking, oh, she stopped moving, she must not be enjoying herself. The guy reverted back to something he'd been doing previously. So the girl starts moving again. This, of course, means that that roller coaster now slides all the way back to the beginning. And she's going, he was so close. So she'll give you another try. And sometimes guys don't get this because girls never say to guys, because they're incapable of realizing this is what's going on. They never say, hey, when you're doing the right thing, I'm going to shut up. My eyes will roll up into the back of my head. I'm going to close them. This is not because I'm fantasizing about some other dude. It's because I'm enjoying the experience and want no other sensations. I'm just going to allow it to happen. I'll let myself go. That's how women come. They let themselves go. And they need for you to be mature enough to not be resentful or frustrated or angry by the fact that they've stopped communicating or stopped moving. It means you're doing the right thing. So whenever you're doing anything and the girl stops communicating, just keep doing exactly that. In fact, you could begin by saying to the women, hey, listen, I've come to understand something about women. When you're really enjoying what I'm doing, when I'm doing the right thing, you're very unlikely to make any sort of communication to me. So I'm just going to keep doing whatever it is that I was doing when you stopped giving me guidance until you tell me to stop. And the girl will go, he gets it. Oh, this is wonderful. And suddenly her concern that you're going to take her up halfway and slide back down again. And then take her up 3/4 of the way and slide her back down again. And take her up almost all the way and then fuck it up and have her slide back again, which are reasons for her to want to get it over with quickly, because why suffer that long? She knows ultimately she's going to be faking an orgasm to get you out the door so she can masturbate and get herself off. She might as well get to that point quickly. So the key is to make certain that you do not allow her roller coaster to slide back down by paying attention to her body language, asking her to communicate with you, telling her you're going to just keep doing exactly the same thing until she tells you to change. Okay? Doing exactly what it is she tells you as best you can, because when you're doing the right thing, she stops being able to tell you what she'd like. So just keep doing exactly that. And when she gets to the point of orgasm, from that point on, it's all gravy. It's just wonderful and fantastic. Almost every girl you've ever been with who you were able to bring off almost certainly said to you, that was amazing, you were incredible. In fact, she may have told you you were the best lover she's ever had. And when she told you you were the best lover she's ever had, in the moment, it was true. Just like every grandfather tells every granddaughter, even if he's got 6 granddaughters, you're the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. Because in the moment, it's true. Girls have very little recollection of better and worse lovers other than that they were good to them and they helped them get off or got them off.
I think on that note, we've had quite a sharing of wisdom from you, and I greatly appreciate the time and energy you put into this. I do want to mention that, for those who want to learn more from Johnny and go to visit his websites and, potentially, hopefully go and see one of his, see him in live to actually experience his wisdom in person. If you do go and purchase something from Johnny, if you let both of us know by email that you found out about Johnny or that you did that through the introduction you're getting here from Cliff's List, I will be sending you a free additional product, bonus product from Cliff's List, just as a thank you for having done that. So I want to again thank Johnny for the time he spent here and all of the great stuff he shared with you. I hope that this is as appreciated by the others as I have. And Johnny, I want to thank you again.
Hey, Cliffy, I'm always happy to talk to your audience. I have had profound successes in my business career because of people that I've had fed to me through your stuff. I love helping people, and I love you as a person, and it's a joy. And fellas, if you mention to me that you came in from Cliffy, I will make certain that we give you a substantial discount on any of our workshops, because I know this would be something that will make Cliff happy. I know it'll be something that will make me happy. I want the kind of people who are actively working to better themselves. Most of my clients are what I like to call recovering pickup artists. People who spend a lot of time learning how to be someone other than themselves to try and get laid, and discovered that most pickup artists end up stranded on an ever-ending treadmill from which there is no escape, constantly doing everything they can to try to demonstrate to other dudes that they can get hot girls, instead of actually becoming really good with women, comfortable and confident in themselves, so that any woman will be happy to know them, and most women will be happy to introduce them to their girlfriends, because girls have such a hard time finding men who satisfy those 4 requirements. So please check out successfulness.com. We hold workshops year-round, but in particular, usually I get Cliffy himself and a whole bunch of other terrific people to come out for a big workshop we have at the beginning of each year in January. So if you have a chance, check out successfulness.com. Come out and participate in one of our workshops. All my lectures are free. All of my workshops and all of my coaching is 100% satisfaction guaranteed, or your money cheerfully refunded, because in order for my reputation to persist, I need to have nothing but positive feedback from everyone I've dealt with. So by all means, if there's something I can do for you, I'd be very happy to. Cliffy, thank you for the opportunity to speak to your audience.
Well, thank you for speaking to them, and I'm sure we'll do this again very soon. Thanks again.